Hey, I'm back. Now, I don't know how long this is going to be or the things I'm going to touch on, but roughly I was thinking lately about the idea, what do they call it? Paralysis by analysis. I've probably touched on this before, but I want to talk about it in a little more detail today. So, paralysis by analysis is a phenomenon where someone is presented with a lot of different options at the same time, and in trying to weigh which option is the best, they end up either not acting, acting too late, or making a worse decision than if you a worse decision than if you didn't spend all that time analyzing the all of the myriad choices that you had at that moment. Now, one of my common themes that I talk about is not stressing small details and staying focused on the bigger picture, because there are things to be learned in the minutia, and there's a lot to be gained in reflecting on things after the fact. But to be in the position where you have to make an important decision and being stuck weighing the options, I feel like is usually more detrimental than not. And a lot of people, they um, make the mistake of using it as an excuse to not act. Like, oh, I've got to weigh these decisions, so I can't do anything until I weigh the decisions. And then by the time you weigh the decisions, the situation has changed. Maybe things aren't possible. Maybe you lost out on something. And I talked about this before with the fear of missing out, the FOMO thing, which I think is stupid. But in a broader way, I want to discuss just an example from my own life, because when you're talking about these abstract ideas, I mean, I'll be touching on the duality of all things in this, which is a concept that I very firmly believe in. And essentially, at this point, I want to explain to you how I look at making decisions, and how I look at things that happen to me, and how I can maintain a peace despite things being unideal. Now, I'm not going to, I've talked about this to death, so I'm not going to talk about it in extreme detail. But essentially, before I came here, I was a programmer and I was making a lot of money, and I was renowned in my field, and I was very accomplished. But I hated the fact that I was bound to a computer all the time, and that the only worth that I felt was essentially that I could program computers. And I had this fear that really no one cared about me outside of that fact. And that, crossed with extreme alcoholism as a result of those things, led to me essentially burning everything to the ground and starting over. And the genesis of this video was really the reflection on that idea. Was that a good idea? Was it wise to come here with the mantra that I still have today, that I'd rather shovel shit for $2 an hour than program a computer for $200 an hour? Was that wise? Should I have maintained a bridge? Should I have kept things going? Was it a good idea? Is there even an answer to that question? Let's find out. Now, I think I'm just going to kind of have a dialogue with myself and include you, and you'll kind of get where I'm coming from here. So think about, I'm thinking right now where I'm at. I'm working at Walmart. I hate this job. It fucking sucks. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I have to figure it out. I don't know if there is going to be a thing to do next, because I don't know if I'm really interested in spending more of my time trying to make myself more valuable to employers, to do something else, because at the end of the day, I don't care about money. I'm just trying to get things done here, so that way I can eventually do something that either turns a profit or makes this place pay for itself. So at the end of the day, I'm constantly weighing, how much of my time do I want to sell? How much of my time do I want to dedicate to, um, developing a skill I can sell that isn't related to computers? And it's kind of just weighing my options, because I was very surprised that the only option I really had when I applied for jobs after I lost the one was that the only people that replied were Walmart and McDonald's, and McDonald's didn't get back to me after the fucking interview. So how do you think that makes me feel? Not good. Um, but yeah, people have been saying the job market's fucked. I believe it now. It's not good. Either way. Um, so thinking about it, I'm forced to work, and I will probably be forced to work until I'm dead. The question is, how much time do I sell? In order to maintain this place, in order to keep a positive revenue flow, I'm not entirely sure if my enterprises here are ever going to pay for themselves or generate a profit. With the harshness of the climate, I would be very dubious about whether or not that's possible. And that's part of the just kind of realizations of being here for as long as I have and seeing the cycles of things. It's beautiful right now, but for half the year this is a fucking frozen wasteland. So it really limits your potential. I've had a lot of problems in winter with things dying and shit going wrong, and all that. So like for me, at this point, I think I'm going to have to just keep working until I'm dead. Which, whatever, I was probably gonna. Well, I wouldn't have had. That's another complex thing. Is would I have had to have done that anyways, or would I have been dead at 30 from alcoholism? Another thing. I don't know. That's that's another fucking thought. I could be dead right now. I mean, the trajectory I was on before was so dire, and I was so fucked that I did not expect to live past 30. It's crazy that I'm going to be 30 next year. It's really weighing on me a lot. Not in a negative way, but it's just kind of I didn't think I would ever get this far, and I feel very blessed that I can be here and be as positive as I am, given where I came from. But going back to the beginning of this, so the trajectory of things as it is now is I'm an unskilled laborer, and I am selling my time to do things that are physically difficult, to make money so I can maintain and build things here. So that's where I'm at, and that's where I'm going to be stuck. And essentially, all my decisions are based on trying to figure out what trajectory makes the most sense going forward, and how much I really think I'm going to need more money to invest versus more time. And that's always time versus money. One of the themes I touch on a lot here. There is no good answer. There is no perfect answer. Um, there is no winning when it comes to selling your time and money. You can't win. If you don't have time, you're not going to get things you want done. If you don't have money, it's hard to get things that you want to get done when you have the time. So it's constantly back and forth. Now, let's talk about if I continued being a programmer even after I moved here, which would not have been possible because I have been living without electricity or running water for 6 years. Um, I had setups with the generator and shit before, but they're not reliable. I would essentially, I mean, we have power on the property, but I'd have to set up essentially a shack that I could use the internet in with a computer, because my house is a quarter mile away from the pole that has electricity, because we used to have, well, we still do have electricity at Gabe's old place with this trailer. But I didn't need it, so I didn't pay for it at my place. And I can't put it at my place because it's a quarter mile away, and the cost of dropping a meter box over there, as well as the additional fees and shit, it isn't worth it. So we have one power pole here. I would have to essentially set up something there. Heating in the winter is not negligible here. It costs a lot of money. Um, and I, so I mean, really, the thing for me, uh, I I could have easily kept doing the things I was doing up here, if I had things like that set up. And um, I guess when I think about it, we didn't really have even cell phone reception at this property when I first moved here, which is something that's changed quite a bit. Um, so I'd have to do something. I would have to set up something. We didn't have power here for I think a year, and then I wired a meter box and then called the power company to fucking put a pole in and drop the mains. So um, it would have been impossible right off the bat unless I lived in town still, because I my friend was renting a house and I was helping him pay for it initially because I was living there, and then I moved here. So I would probably have to stay in town, to continue working on computers for a living, which means I wouldn't have been here, which means I would have been still stuck there working on computers until I was able to develop a system here where I could develop things here. Now, the internet here, no matter what you do, is dog shit. I mean, you can get satellite. It doesn't work well. We got Starlink at my old job, and apparently it's just dog shit. It doesn't work very well. It doesn't work any different than satellite, which is what I've been fucking telling people this whole time. It's just shit. It's satellite, marketed differently. The advantages that they had was because of the limited customer base. I'm not going to get into that whole fucking thing. So it's not an option. You can do it, but it's extremely expensive, and like I said, it doesn't work. It's high latency. A lot of the things you got to do these days, especially VNC connections, RDP connections, shit like that, you need low latency for it to work. You can barely fucking use SSH if you got a ping higher than 500 milliseconds. It's the way things are. In order to do this shit, you have to have good internet, and there is no good internet here outside of town. In town you get good internet because you got Spectrum, you got all that shit. So essentially, I would have been stuck, and I still would be stuck working in town. And I have a house in town, so it's possible. I mean, there was a period of time where we had nothing in town, so it wouldn't have been possible. But my decisions would have been different if I kept doing it. So my whole thing is, and my frustrations with computing was, you never clock out. Especially the business I was doing, people had to be able to contact you at any time. You did not keep fixed hours, and you always had to be able, at like a moment's notice, to log in and fix shit. So that would have seriously hampered my ability to be here. I would have been stuck in town more. I would have gotten less done, um, but I'd have more money. Now the question, obviously, is would I be selling more of my time for money, and how much money are you getting for your time that you're selling? Because right now, I make it's going to be tough. I mean, making things work is going to be very difficult. Not to mention expanding things. With the budget I've set up, it's going to be really hard. But I'm only fixed to work a specific block of time. I don't have to think about work outside of work at all. And even though it pays like shit, it's enough. Now, if it were theoretically possible for me to work only 40 hours a week as a programmer, maybe it would be worth it, because it would be the same thing. I'd have to be in town to work, which would be the same as what I'm doing right now, but I'd be making more money. But I wouldn't be doing physical activity at work, which means I would be tired. I would be I would be more out of shape. I would be more fucked because I'd be sitting down too much, and sitting too much is not good for you. And I would still have the baggage that I had when I came here, of the idea that the only reason that people care about me or that I'm useful is because I can program computers, which was seriously fucking with my head. I don't talk about that a lot, but it was a huge, huge fucking insecurity for me, and that's the flip side of the coin that I'm going to talk about, is in throwing everything away and essentially like killing my old self and becoming a new person. Uh, Literally, because I moved here and I didn't know anybody except for Gabe, because he came here with me. Um, Probably is one of the most freeing things I've ever done in my entire life. It essentially, it fundamentally changed who I am in a better way. Uh, it made me understand that, it made me less cynical. It made me a lot less angry at the world, to essentially see that there's people out there that love and care about me, that I didn't know from Adam 6 years ago. That they care about me now, despite the fact that I've been very poor and have I don't really have much. Um, so that really changed the way that I look at people, the way that I look at society in general, and it's made me a much more positive person. I used to be extremely negative. I used to be extremely cynical. And I don't think that's good for anybody to do. I don't think it's good for anyone to be cynical or negative. I mean, obviously, there's a time to be critical, but I mean, it needs to be part of a more complex question, as opposed to just immediately assuming the worst of everybody and everything, which is where I was at back right before I switched everything up, which is why I was a lot more extreme when I first came here, because I was just so fucking frustrated with everything. Um, so if I never did that, I would never have learned. Well, first of all, I'd still probably be pretty weak. I never would have learned that people actually cared about me outside of programming computers. I never would have learned that I had a worth outside of programming computers. And I would have probably gotten less things done here, because it monopolizes more of your time. It makes you more tired, which is, it doesn't make any sense. You'd think if you're not doing shit all day, you'd be less tired, but it's not the same. Mental fatigue is a whole fucking different animal. But there's a probability that if I kept doing it, I would have been able to stop working sooner, because I would have had enough money to just keep living. Which is another thing, is if I kept doing that, by the time I was like 35 or 40, I could have had enough saved up. I would not ever have to work again. Um, but I'd have to work my ass off till I was 35 or 40 and be super unhealthy, probably obese or overweight. I mean, I think technically I'm overweight right now, but I don't know. and I would have just been fucked, and I would have gotten very little done here. And the reason I wake up every day and I am in a good mood and I am so happy is because I wake up and I get to see this beautiful fucking place, and I get to come out here and see the work that I've done with my own hands to make this a better place. And that is that is what gets me out of bed every day. That is the I'm not a materialistic person at all. This is the only material possession I have that I actually care about. Everything else I care about is people or like memories, things like that. So, I mean, to have something that you are proud of and that makes you feel as though you are not wasting your life and time is a huge. It's a huge. It's good for the mind. It kind of goes without saying. Most people do this with relationships or family. Based on the way that I am, which I'm not going to get into, I don't think that's going to happen for me. But I don't have to worry about that because I got people I love and care about, and they've got families, and I'm included in that by proxy, so I'm good to go. Uh, Even if my own relationship with my own family is strained, which is a whole other thing. But we're not going to talk about that. So, how much do I want to keep rambling about this? Do you kind of see what I'm getting at here? There is no perfect decision, and that was the most important decision I've ever made in my entire life. And I can come up with arguments from both sides, pointing in positives, negatives. I can fucking come up with everything. What was the right choice? What was the right choice? Was there a right choice? I would have been a different man if I didn't do the things that I did. I would have been I would have probably had different insecurities. I would have looked at the world and life totally differently if I didn't do what I did. And when you look at the past, the fear of missing out shit especially, when you look at the past and you analyze the decisions you've made, you think about what you've done. Um, it's important to consider that every single major decision that you've made in your life, there is a duality of options to every option. There is positives, there are negatives. Would I have more money right now if I kept being a programmer? Yes. Would I be more fucked up? Probably. Would I still have a lot of insecurities and be really cynical and pessimistic and probably be less motivated to do the things that I'm doing right now? Probably. Um, it's a thing. I mean, am I going to be wasting away as a fucking poorly paid laborer for the rest of my life doing what I've done now? Probably. Um, but at the same time, you clock in, you clock out. You never have to think about it outside of that. And we have enough. And I was able to set things up at a time where things didn't cost that much. So, but I say, what was the right decision? Was I right? Was I wrong? Who knows? I don't. You don't. Nobody knows. I can't even imagine that Alec Obratovich that would be in that world, in that situation. It's completely impossible to think about. Um, all I know is where I am right now, the man that I am right now, and I'm happy with that. And when it comes to weighing that decision, even though I'm frustrated with my current position, um, as it's come to bear out, I think it would have been fine either way. But I'm happier that I know what I know now. I've become a stronger person mentally and physically. And I can essentially take on any task or difficulty with the confidence I've gained in rebuilding myself from the ground up. Uh, I don't think I'd trade that for anything. Even more money, more time, being able to retire at 35 or 40. So I don't know. What do you think? Got to get the engagement. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious. I don't usually talk at the screen because I think it's weird. But I don't know. Are there big decisions in your life that you've made? Are there things that like you think like sometimes you like go to bed at night and you think about it, shit like that, and like when you weigh it out, do you see that duality? Do you see how things could have been better, could have been worse, or see things being equal in different measures, or better or worse? How do you weigh it out? I want to know. I'm very curious because I tend to be very it's strange because I'm not a fatalist, but I do have a very fatalistic interpretation of events and the series of events. I mean, obviously, I believe in free will, but I think the way that it's set. Do I want to explain this right now? I'm not going to explain this right now. I might talk about it later. What do you think? What do you think? You. Let me know. See ya.